Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about how to incorporate independent contractors into your membership model. One of the biggest issues that I see providers face when they open up their own membership practice is that they feel like they need to be everything to everybody, meaning they either need to be the one educating them with like a pre-recorded series, they need to offer weekly live office hours, as well as seeing the patient every single month because the patient is paying monthly. And what that does is that eventually may lead to burnout for the provider. It also, I don't think, is as healthy for the patient because the patient does well when there's other people involved, there's other perspectives, there's other help that can help this patient heal. And so there, when you're first starting out, a lot of people don't have the funds or the capital to hire a nutritionist, hire a therapist, hire an athletic trainer, hire all these people that they think that would be helpful to involve in their membership model. So the solution to that is to have them be an independent contractor. Now, there's things you have to be mindful of when you have an independent contractor. The that person sets their own hours. You can't tell them how to work, when to work, things like that. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But with the independent contractor, the beauty of it is that they get paid when services are rendered. So in my practice, this is how I worked it out. I had a health coach and nutritionist as well as a therapist included in the membership model. The patient could not choose that they just didn't want them in the membership. I said that, in my experience, patients did well when they also had these visits. So that's why it's built in. You can always choose to not see them if you wish. But that was just a boundary that I set because I needed to be able to outsource certain things that were either out of my scope of expertise, or I just needed that kind of support. I didn't have time to go through line by line with a nutrition plan with somebody, or I didn't have time to go through their personal care products and tell them which ones were not good for them, which ones were estrogen mimickers, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I chose to have these two independent contractors. Now, how I set that up was for my health coach, my membership included 3 visits with a health coach throughout the year. Looking back, I would have preferred it. Probably would have worked better if the patient saw the health coach in between each appointment with myself. So I saw the patient 5 times throughout the year. So kind of alternating there. But as I set it up, it was 3 appointments with a health coach. And then I had one 90-minute appointment with a therapist. So how this worked is I would see the patient and say the patient had some gut issues where a low FODMAP diet trial would be recommended. I would give the patient initial resources, explain to them why. So I was in charge of the theory, like why I'm recommending this diet, why I think it's important, how I think it might impact them, certain things that they might feel if it's working or not working, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'd say, I would like you to set up an appointment with our nutritionist so you can go through the logistics of it, really understand how to implement it, go through the plan line by line. So I would set up an appointment with our nutritionist at the end of my appointment with the patient. How that worked from the independent contractor standpoint is our nutritionist would give us her availability a month out. So by June 1st, I needed July's availability. So then either myself or my assistant would say, okay, patient, we need to set you up with a nutritionist, pull up that nutritionist schedule, and then that patient would be placed into it based on her availability. So if my nutritionist was on vacation for a week out of the month, or she was blocking days for holidays or personal things, like that's fine. She's just giving us her availability, her schedule. So we would put that patient in for an hour of that time. At the end of every month, the nutritionist would then invoice me. So because the nutritionist is an independent contractor, she has her own business, her own entity. So then she bills me an invoice. And then so she might say, I saw 10 patients this month, 10 appointments. I would cross-check to make sure that that was true on my end as well. And then I'd pay her for that time. So that's how we set it up. The beauty of that is that you can set that up from day one because you will have included the price for the independent contractors into your membership model, so that you are already kind of collecting that money for them, and then you're going to go ahead and just give it to them as the services are rendered. I do not recommend paying them ahead of time. They get paid once they see the patient. Now you might be asking, with a therapist, that involves, typically when somebody's in therapy, they might see them weekly, every other week. I am not here to assume, I cannot assume how much somebody might need that kind of services. So how I worked with the therapist is that it included one 90-minute appointment with the therapist at any point throughout that 12-month membership. So what I typically found was around 6, 7, 8 months, sometimes my patients would either kind of start bringing up things from their past that needed to be processed, or as they're kind of developing this healing, healthy lifestyle, they start to notice toxicities within their relationships to self, relationships to other people, what have you, things that are outside of my specialty, and they need a mental health therapist to kind of help them work through that. So I kind of just kept that therapy appointment, quote unquote, kind of in my back pocket. And when these things would start to come up, I would say, now would be a really great time to discuss this with our therapist. And they would have that 90-minute appointment together. From there, if they decide, so if the therapist might say, it's kind of an initial consult, it's not like an official therapy appointment. So they would kind of discuss the patient's issues. If it was time for that patient to embark on that journey with the therapist, then they would decide that together. The patient would pay the therapist directly, and they would kind of go on from there. I really viewed my membership, and this is what I recommend to the physicians that we work with, is you serve as a connector. You identify needs and help connect to patients to who they need to be connected with. You do not have to solve all of their problems and be the be all end all for them. Everything does not need to be included, because if it did, your membership prices would just kind of keep growing. And that can be difficult. So this kind of gives the patient the ability to kind of say, okay, I understand I need therapy, but it's not urgent. I'll do that in a few months. You're kind of helping connect the dots for them a little bit. So that is how I recommend incorporating those independent contractors into your membership business, so you do not have to go into debt paying for services, paying for things that when your business hasn't really grown to that point yet. Thanks a lot. I hope that was helpful.